but also what has come into the cultural conversation over the past few years of hostile work environments and toxicity. And I think
not in entertainment.
Yeah, I think the client side being able to keep those toxic veins pumping for so long, the agency side kind of looked at it as that's just what it takes to be here. You need a thicker skin. You need to be able to handle it. We all want to be in this industry. This is how it goes. And because you would tolerate it from a client, that also created a tolerance internally at the agencies where as long as you're talented, as long as you can bring in money, that's an excuse to behave anyway that you want to behave, treat people however you want to treat them.
You're listening to Creative Leadership with Heart, a podcast that inspires people to take action and be the leader they were born to be. I'm Coach Rico, and I'm known for coaching and training executives, leaders, founders, and high performers at Fortune 100 businesses, startups, and more. I'm here to answer your questions about leadership and personal development while also asking you questions that can unlock your untapped potential.
Welcome to Creative Chutzpah. My name is Leonard Samuels. I have here Rico Nizal, and our company today is Wil Lemus, is a founding partner and creative director for entertainment creative agency Hustle LA. Wil developed his craft with agencies Schulery Design, BPG, and BLT Communications. Most recently, Wil led dozens of buzzworthy campaigns as a creative director at Art Machine and associate creative director with Bond. And Heather Lemus is a founding partner and managing director for Hustle LA, a well-established senior leader. Heather has an extensive background steeped in digital, social, promotional, and print creative for the entertainment industry. Prior to Hustle LA, Heather led this digital social business and production for BLT Communications and BPG. A valued partner to her clients, Heather built her career navigating campaigns that have captured the cultural zeitgeist with HBO, Max, Disney Plus, Sony, and many others. Founded in 2022, Hustle LA's mission is to deliver compelling art and supportive partnerships to clients through an inclusive creative environment where people of all backgrounds feel valued and thrive. And you can tell I didn't read any of that. That was all memorized. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
And for the fans at home, the viewers, the sponsors, who are you? Oh, well, we read briefly, but tell us more about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Go for it. Here we go.
We'll start. So, Wil and I met in 2008 at BPG. I was an early account executive coming from the Oxygen Network and moving over to the agency side. And Wil was an art director in the print department. And we collaborated with each other, but really we became best friends. And from there, we fell in love, had a couple kids, got married, in a different order. Yeah. And then in the last year and a half, started this business together, basically out of a desire to provide ourselves the environment that we weren't finding in other companies. And it felt like the right time to be able to bring something new to the industry where who you are as a human being is as important, if not more important, than your techniques and your skill sets and how much money you can bring in. We want a team and a culture that really collaborates and enjoys each other every day. So initially, when we got our start, I went to New York. I was going to be a writer. I was finishing college out there at the New School.
Oh, very
and
nice.
I got an opportunity to run a boutique for a woman who was in the advertising industry, and she was moving over to head up marketing at the Oxygen Network and brought me over as her assistant and gave me the opportunity to get my foot in the door in marketing and see what consumer marketing was all about. And these were the early days when Facebook was first starting, and you needed to use your school email address to get in and, figure out how to try to do grassroots marketing on Facebook. Right. And I just really loved it. I loved being a part of the strategy. It was an amazing group of women that I was working with every day. It was before NBC Universal bought Oxygen, so it felt a lot more homegrown and ragtag. And when I decided to leave New York and come back to California, my boss recommended that I go to BPG, which is an agency that they were working with, and see the agency side. So I learned how everything got made over there through Will and a lot of other amazing people. And then I went to BLT from there and was in their digital and social department for 10 years. In the last 4 running the department and the team. And we did everything from digital banner campaigns, social marketing, community management, events, stunts, all of that. And just really, after 10 years and having 2 kids, really needed a break after the pandemic, was feeling burnt out and feeling like there was an opportunity for something else. And like I said, we couldn't really find it anywhere else. So after a break and Will convincing me, we started HusLA.
Wow.
And for you?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was just kind of a knucklehead and not much of no artistic bone in my body or anything like that. I was outside running around, getting cuts and bruises as kids don't do anymore these days. And but yeah, I was when I was in high school, my parents had a second job and cleaning an advertising company at night, and so I would walk down the street after school and go and help them clean this agency. I didn't know really what they did. I just saw lots of posters. It was BD Fox and Friends at the time, and just throwing the trash, passing the vacuum, picking up everyone's cups and doing the dishes and stuff like that. And I would kind of befriend some of the designers that were there, but it wasn't like we were talking shop or anything like that. It was just like, I was curious because this one guy had like a saltwater fish tank and he was always cleaning it, and I was kind of helping him do that. And it was just kind of like just kind of making friends and stuff. But I was just I was young and kind of clueless. And one day one of them was like, hey, do you like this stuff? Like, do you want to try and learn how to do this? And I'm like, oh, I don't know how to draw. And I thought they drew everything because everything had like an illustrative look that they did. And he's like, oh, we don't do that. We use a computer and images and this program. And I was like, what? Like, that's interesting. And so that got me a little curious about what they did. And like probably a month later, I got myself a computer. They gave me programs. I got to play with them, which was really great. And that's where I met.
What programs were you using?
I was just like Photoshop 5 or
Nice.
4.5. It was like, yeah.
Like Photoshop was like $3,000, and we were like,
well, yeah, it was free for me because they were, my mom was so beloved at that company that all these people that were there were just like, we just want to help this kid, with it, whatever, and so that's the one thing that I've been blessed to have been able to be. I was surrounded with a lot of really great, humble people that wanted to see me, succeed and win in life. And so, they were willing to help out and do whatever they could. If I showed the interest, they were going to help me, and so based on the relationship that my mother had with all of them, and that was really why they kind of took to me. And so that was really cool to be able to kind of have that experience. And a couple years down the line, that company it didn't go under, but it kind of broke off into different parts and pieces, and a bigger chunk of the company left, and they all went to Jewelry Design. And I was kind of still trying to figure out Photoshop and kind of study design. And I went to a small trade school, a year and a half of what is Photoshop? What do these buttons do? That was kind of basically what it was. And because I knew I needed a foundation, and I couldn't figure it all out on my own. So I went to that school, finished that. That school doesn't even exist anymore, I don't think. And I was working at a print shop in North Hollywood, just printing business cards and stuff like that. It was very easy work. And I got a call from the IT director that was at BD Fox at the time, who's now the IT director at BLT Communications, Chris Hewitt. And he was like, hey, man, do you want a job? I know you want to design, but we don't have any design jobs here. Like, but this, you'll at least be in the door at a place where that's the thing that you want to do. Right. And I was like,
going for business cards in Hollywood, right?
yeah, yeah. And
You got the Hollywood call.
we did the Hollywood Nissan business cards there. That was like the big job there. But anyway, so yeah, he called me up, was like, you can be my assistant. I was like, look, dude, I don't know anything about computers. I barely know how to turn one on. I don't know how to fix them. I don't know how to do any of this stuff. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll teach you. And I was like, well, okay, like, let's go. And so that's how I got my foot in the door into Schulery. Again, someone from BD Fox that, wanted to help me, kind of get my foot in the door. And so he and I worked together for a good solid year, like just kind of learning how to take a computer apart, troubleshooting software, networking, the whole thing, and I'm a pretty quick learner. So I in the office, like everything is kind of repetitive, right? This guy has the same problem as this guy. So you kind of learn how to fix things pretty quickly in the office. And so I had most of the time, half of my day was like just burning DVDs, archiving all of our stuff. Wow. And the other half was like troubleshooting here and there. And I got pretty good at like scheduling myself. So then I had a couple hours to kill towards the end of the day. And I would just go sit, and these two designers that that guy with the saltwater fish tank, and my other mentor. So, shout out John Saltis, rest in peace, and Chris Bartolini. And I just sat behind them too. And they were kind of like these two guys that would go at each other all day long and talk to each other. And it was just fun seeing their banter and also just being able to watch them just design and think and ask questions. And I was just sitting behind them and they would let me. So that was really awesome. And I just learned so much from them, just being in the room. And eventually Chris was like, you give me a little task. Hey, mask this. Go do this, go do that. I'm just trying to help him with whatever I could help. I was happy to do it because I was in that world now. And little by little, I started noticing oh, he's actually creative directing me. He's teaching me how to, mask properly, how to type properly, how to, construct a comp properly, how to add lighting and da-da-da. And so what I didn't know is that eventually when I got to a point where whatever I was doing for him was presentable, he was actually presenting them in presentations. Oh, wow. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're going to get me fired. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm not supposed to be doing this. And he was like, no, man, you can do this, And I was like, really? So, I kind of took, I had no faith in myself as a designer or anything like that. In my head, I was just helping him with whatever tasks he needed to finish or whatever. But once he said that to me, and he was like, kid, you can do this. I really kind of took those were the words that I just kind of took from him, and I just kind of ran with it. I was like, I don't have any faith in myself, but if this guy that has been doing this for 25 years thinks I can do this, I'm going to just run with what he's saying and trust him, then in myself. So, eventually Schulery they went under. And right before they went under, 6 months before, I actually got to become a junior art director. Finally, I was not being in IT, I'm going to go design. And then 6 months later, boof, it's gone. And I'm like, and, but the nice thing was that everyone there, kind of spiderweb to other agencies. So now I'm like, okay, I have this really cool network that I can get a job with a friend here, or that at least they can get me in the door or whatever. But I really wanted to test my abilities, that all the stuff that I had learned and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to go somewhere where no one knows me and all I have is my pen and my book, and see what happens.
Were you carrying that big acrylic portfolio that we used to have, or did you get the nice leather one?
I think I had the cheap acrylic one for sure.
Or you had to tell the person you need to clear off your table because this is gonna landscapes in here. So yeah,
it was cheap. It was $10. I mean, it was easy. But yeah, so eventually that's where I found BPG, and I applied there, and they were like, we'll try you out, and we'll see. And so 2 weeks into it, they were like, we want to hire you. And I ended up being there for about 3 years.
As IT, and
I got hired as an IT guy, and when I got there, it they had an old G4, a ratty old G4, and it was just, that was their server. And I was like, we got to fix this. Like, we got to get a whole, infrastructure in here. Yeah. We brought in the printing as well in there. And so I was able to do that with them, and also at the same time design at night, because, I had the full-time IT job and the full-time design job. And so did that for 3.5 years, kind of figured my time was done there. And I headed over to BLT, and I was there for about 5.5 years or so. Really
but
great.
As a designer at BLT, because
just design, yeah. I quit the IT game once I left BPG.
Yeah.
Although
so you were building your creative portfolio while doing all the tech stuff.
Yeah. And so I headed over to BLT to be in their like ABC department.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. And like, it was weird not having 2 jobs at one place. And so I find myself, like having a lot of extra time to do extra work when I was there. But it was great. Like, I learned a lot there. And then I was there for 5.5 years, and then went over to Bond for about 6.5 years, I believe, 6 or 6.5 years. Met some really, really amazing people there. Had a great time. And eventually, I think it was a little bit after, like maybe a year after the pandemic hit or whatnot, ended up going to Art Machine for about 1.5 years. And, it was cool because I was just meeting so many, I didn't really know anybody at Art Machine. And most of the people that were at Bond, like I'd known them from like BLT and other spots and stuff like that. So I got to meet a new crew of people at Art Machine. And I probably would still be there if we hadn't kind of decided to start our own company. I really liked it there. It was a good pace, and the people were really great. And it sucked to leave, but once Heather, was kind of trying to get back in the game and trying to figure out where she might want to go, and seeing that void, I was like, well, maybe we got to be that place. Maybe we have to create that place that you're looking for, so that it feels good for both of us. And we kind of said, let's do it, and here we are.
That's such a cool story, and the mentorship and with the evolution. Heather, I want to go back to something that you said, and I think, Will, it was coming out in what you were saying. You wanted to create something that had the right environment. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what was wrong about certain environments, or maybe not wrong, but what was not ideal? And then what is the environment that you want to create?
Well, I think we came up in the industry at an interesting time where a transition was beginning, but there was still this long history of obviously the working round the clock and whatever the client needs and burning out teams in that sort of way, but also what has come into the cultural conversation over the past few years of hostile work environments and toxicity. And I think
not in entertainment.
Yeah, I think the client side being able to keep those toxic veins pumping for so long, the agency side kind of looked at it as that's just what it takes to be here. You need a thicker skin. You need to be able to handle it. We all want to be in this industry. This is how it goes. And because you would tolerate it from a client, that also created a tolerance internally at the agencies where as long as you're talented, as long as you can bring in money, that's an excuse to behave any way that you want to behave, treat people however you want to treat them. And I didn't grow up that way. I was always getting the citizenship awards in grade school and like all of that. My thing was just always treat people the way you want to be treated. So for a lot of years, I felt like maybe I just don't fit here because maybe my skin isn't thick enough. I need to change. I need to be different because this is me. And it's not nice and it makes me feel bad. And I feel like people should be treated this way. And I was always being told that I cared about the team too much, or if I was told if you could just care 10% less, you'd be perfect. And I saw a different thing with the people on my teams of just how much they appreciated and valued being seen, having somebody that had their back, having somebody that cared about them. But when you're working for somebody else's company, if they don't feel like that's a priority to elevate, you're always going to hit a wall. You're always going to hit something where you can't create the change that you want to make because it's not considered important or valuable. And so I just felt like I was running in circles with that for decades. And it, especially because we both have experience in so many different places, it wasn't like we could look around and go, they're doing it right over there. They've got the same ethics that I do. I could fit in there and do something great. It felt like I'm going to hit the exact same wall at 6 months, and I really, when I left BLT, I took about 6 months to just rest and try to recover and switch gears. And I was really questioning whether I could even stay in the industry at all with what I felt was important, and to be able to be a mother and have enough energy left to be a mother, to bring my best self to my kids and not be stressed all the time and distracted all the time. And Will kept discussing with me just how prepared we really were to do this because of how much we had led and experienced. And my thought at first, when I would just blow him off about it, was I can't handle any more stress than I already have. I can't do that. And then somewhere it finally clicked that if I wasn't hitting this wall all the time, my stress would be different. And I'm dealing with more stress and trauma and turmoil because I feel wrong in a place that's not suitable for me. But if I could create an environment that could foster the care for other people the way I want to be treated, the way I think people should be treated, then I could have a different feeling every day. So for me, I came into it with a commitment to, I just want to give people a better experience than what they're dealing with now. That's where I can have an effect. That's where I can create some change. So however long you're with Hustle LA, whether you're here for 1 year, 10 years, you're freelance, I just want you to feel good and feel like you've contributed and that we care about what you've done and we appreciate you. And so far, I feel like we've been successful at that. And it's amazing to be able to see that we are giving the people that are working with us a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And it's validating to go, okay, we were onto something. It feels weird. It feels different than what everybody else is doing. And that can be unnerving, but it's the right thing because it's doing something for these people.
Yeah, that's such a great perspective and a great thing you're doing. And, being on the client side for so many years, I hired an in-house team and that's what they expected. They expected this like 2 a.m. just being handed a box of dinner and not even being asked to stay, right? And like, and they would cringe when I'd say, what are you doing? It's like 6 o'clock. Like, why are you still here? And they, what do you mean? I'm like, why are you still here? Like, you got here at 8 when I got here and it's 6, you're still here. So it's amazing that you're doing it. And people with talent, they want balance too. It's not like only the people that work long hours are the ones that have talent. The ones that also know how to balance their lives have talent too. So where do they go?
Right, exactly. And you're going to bring your best self to your team, the creative, all of it, when you can rest and enjoy a life outside of all of this. And no matter what anybody tells you, we aren't taking these jobs with the intention of giving up our lives. That's not what we're thinking we're signing up for. And it just becomes that over time. And I think the pandemic created a lot of change for all of us in the industry and being able to see each other's humanity in a much bigger way. And when I could see on the client side that even the clients were caring about each other, caring about us, canceling calls because it was too difficult a day in the world. It was like, oh, we can bring our humanity to this. It doesn't have to just be this yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, whatever situation. it was like, you could just see the sliver. You could see the sliver, this glimmer that, okay, this can be different. And I think when everybody started the great resignation and that all started happening, I could feel a shift that I wanted to be part of. And I just felt like I can't look back. I know this is possible now. And we've just got to keep forcing our way. So the way we look at it is we're this generation in between that totally understands what happened before and how difficult it could be. And we're encouraged by the generations after us coming up that are coming in with the expectation of more balance, that are coming in with the expectation of care. And if you're self-aware and you're caring about the people around you, you can take that knowledge and that history and that encouragement from the ones coming up and create a good balance.
Yeah, it's really sorry to, but I just wanted to say that like it's really great to be in that position to be able to do something like that. Because like if you're, and companies that have been around 10, 15, 20, 30 years now, that's the norm, right? And that's the established thing. So trying to, and I got to give it to them, like trying to kind of rein that back in is going to be a ton of work because, now you have 100, 200, 300 people in your company that are used to working this way and working one way. And it's a difficult thing to do once you've been around for so long and you have all these like, grandfathered in, environments and ways of doing things. And I see some, obviously trying to pull it back, but it's a lot harder because it's just the way you've worked your whole career, and being able to be in the position to be like, well, this is a clean slate. We need to make it right from the beginning so that it doesn't matter if you come in 10 years from now, you're still beholden to that, that ideology that we had in the beginning, which is, kind of, our people first. And so that's the really like nice thing that I when I look at it, like I'm like, I'm excited about creating something like that can last that time where like the standard is this, and the standard is be a good human being when you're here, hopefully when you're gone too, and not just when you're with us. And that's exciting to me, in this whole thing that we've started, more than just like, the posters that we put out or whatnot like that.
Right.
It's the culture.
Yeah, and it's important, right? To your point, some of these entertainment companies have been around 30, 40, 50, even 100 years. And having them change because they've had values for that long, it's like trying to steer the Titanic with a right? Like you're trying to turn the Titanic, but companies that are newer, they're like speedboats. They're new, they're malleable. You can establish values according to how you want to, and then that's where you start, right? And something that's important that you said too is you don't hire a set of hands. You hire an entire human being.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not just the hands that you're bringing in. You have to take them as their whole person, and then you want them to bring that whole person to work because that's when they'll do their best work. And so I think that's this distinction that people need to remember is like you're not just hiring. Even when they say, "Oh, they're a maker," like sure they're a maker, but like you're hiring a fully formed human that has emotions, that has like other things that come along with it.
It's that, and I think I went for years having to hire people based on who was going to fit the dynamic that had been set up and who wouldn't be picked on or judged or given a hard time by the people in power who were very specific about the kinds of people they wanted to work with or the look that they wanted to have around them. And it was so icky to have to be talking to someone that could probably do a great job and learn, but people aren't going to be patient with them in learning. They're going to give them a really hard time. They're going to judge them on things that they shouldn't. And it really limited who we could bring in. And then those people that came in had such a hard time because they were having to deal with this crazy system and personalities that either liked or didn't like them. There was often this sort of, especially if we were in an office, there was a feeling that you shouldn't make yourself too comfortable in your office. You might not be here that long.
Yeah.
It'll be really embarrassing when you have to carry everything
Yeah.
out.
You have to keep everything in the same box that you came
So
in with.
don't put a rug down. Don't start hanging things because you'll get the eye roll like, oh, she looks really cozy, and I, for years, even as a leader, kept as few things in my office as possible because it haunted me of like, if I'm carrying this box out, I gotta go as fast as I can.
I still apply by this rule. This is all I carry, just in case.
Well, and it's so sad. I think about it now, and I think how different the day-to-day could have been for the team if they could have created the environment around them that would have made them feel inspired every day, that would have made them feel like they were bringing themselves, that they could be themselves. And so it's just a daily motivation for me of how do we make sure that everyone that works with us feels like they can be honestly themselves, and we encourage it and we appreciate it. And I think we've had a lot of people interested in coming to work with us, and we've had some people come through the staff and be recommended. And the first question we always ask is, but are they a good person? Like, do you actually like them? Would you want to be around them every single day? And luckily, the people we work with now know that they don't even bring up somebody with us that wouldn't be their feeling. So it's starting to become a default understanding of our culture and how we want to make things up.
I want to touch upon that's all amazing, by the way, the fact that you're really people first, which is fantastic. But I also want to comment on the transitionary point that you had made from doing the full-time 9 to 5. There's a lot of new business owners and a lot of current business owners that feel the same way in this respect. That how do you find the courage and break the fear of getting into a business, starting your process, and the market's so oversaturated with so many agencies, and there's also the preferred agencies, the powerhouse agencies that we know. But how did you get through that process? What's your mantra to say we are going to be just fine as long as we hold on to our morality, one, yes, and our standards and all that good stuff?
I think for me, like when I kind of thought about it, I looked at my parents, and they, immigrants, came to the United States with literally nothing. Somehow were able to buy a home, start a little business, it failed, start another business, it failed, start this other thing, it failed, while also working a full-time job. Like my dad was always doing off jobs or whatever to make extra money. Then we would, do the cleaning at night of the other agencies. And it's just them just hustling and doing whatever they needed to do. And not ever I never heard my mom or my dad talking about oh, we don't know if we want to do this. It's kind of scary. They would just try, whether it failed or not, they didn't care, because they were always working anyway. So just watching them just kind of do it, no fear, just trying different things, trying to find the thing that stuck, right? And I was like, man, if they can kind of do this, and I think that, it would be, after looking back at everything, going, we have 20 plus years experience, both of us. We've ran teams. We just don't know the business side of everything, but you can go to YouTube University and learn a lot from there. That's where I kind of went and cut my teeth on just kind of learning, accounting stuff and software for that kind of stuff. And, but we knew the entertainment business kind of inside and out on the creative side and on the account side. So I'm like, it would be dumb of us to not try this and not, try to put our skill sets, to something that we could build together. And so, just seeing my parents, just bust their butts, all kinds of different things, and then also I listened to a podcast where the owners of BLT were on there, and it was more about their story when they started and how they're art directors and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, when I went there, I was like, oh my God, there was, because BLT is the big agency for me. And that's, going there, I was scared and I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And, there was Don and Clive and Rick, and they were just like, bigger than life to me. And hearing them on that podcast and their story and how they started, I was like, oh, they're not these like, larger than life people. They're just regular human beings, just like me. And I listened to their story, and I was like, it kind of gave me like, some confidence there as well, because they were just trying things out too, just like my parents. They were like, we believe that, there's an opportunity over here on this side, and it's not aligned with whatever their management was at the time. And they're like, let's take a shot and see what happens. And boom, 30 years later, you have this huge company that's doing amazing, puts out amazing work. And, I was just kind of like blown away by that story too. And,
because we just see the end result, so we're just like, oh, they already made it.
Right. You don't know how they got there and where they started. And it was, such a nice story, all three of the stories that they had on this podcast. And I was just like, like, why not? Like, and also one other thing is like our kids were our biggest like champions and our biggest cheerleaders. And when we kind of brought this kooky idea to start a company, they were like, of course you should do this. Like, what are you talking about? Like, when are you starting? And
and it wasn't just you should do this, it was we should do this.
Right.
Like they are fully like in the sidecar with us, like this is our company. Like ready to jump in and give their feedback at any point in time.
Yeah. So after I put my foot in my mouth by telling them, I was like, okay, we can't go back now because they expect us to do this. And I was like, well, we need, whether we fail or not, like we need to show them that we tried, and it was scary. And I
you're setting the example.
I tell them all the time, like if you are scared of doing whatever the thing it is you want to do, that's what you should do. Exactly, is go and try and do it. The result doesn't matter, and us not trying and not going for this would be the worst example for them. So we jumped in.
Well, and we weren't there really wasn't a fear of failure per se, because our thinking was it was important for us to just try.
Yeah.
So even if it went down in flames, we were proud of ourselves for trying and not just having an idea that we never pursued.
Yeah.
So I think we had a certain level of confidence, each of us, in our own expertise, and in life and in business, we're a great yin and yang for each other. So it always felt like what Will was stronger at, I could learn from him, and what I was stronger at, he could learn from me. And having a partner to do it makes it a heck of a lot easier. And when it's already somebody that you really trust and value, you feel a little bit safer in it. I mean, we trade off weekly with whatever one of us is nervous about, and pep each other up. But for the most part, I think we are, like I said, with artists that we work with or clients that we work with, we've been getting feedback on both sides of how refreshing this is. So it just encourages us to keep going. And I think, to Will's point about setting the example, for me as a woman to be showing our daughters that we could go from what we were doing and just start a company, that felt pretty epic for me when I was recognizing how my kids were taking it in.
Yeah.
And even my nieces. And as we were starting to build it, I happened to overhear one of my daughters and my niece playing spa with each other. And they walked into their make-believe spa, and they walked in as business owners. And they were telling the story of their made-up companies to each other. And for me to overhear that, I immediately went, oh my God, this has a much bigger ripple effect than I even realized, because I was never playing business owner when I was little, so it really does, they're all, like they say, they're always listening, they're always watching. And I think that's pretty special to be able to do it for however long we do.
Wow.
And these aren't things they're learning in school. These are things they're learning from you.
Right.
Right. And and the other thing, if you were 90 on your deathbed, you don't want to have that regret. Like, what if we did do it? Like, why didn't we? Right. It's better to
Absolutely.
have tried and failed, even if you're not close to failing. But for somebody who's listening, it's better to have tried and failed than to always question for
Yeah.
the rest of your life, what if?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to bring up one subtle thing that I've noticed, and when you get finishes, your work is incredible. It speaks for itself. You guys are going to go the distance. It's all there. But one subtle thing that I've noticed when you guys thank everybody that you have partnered with and work with, you guys have been writing, if I think continuously, been writing gracias.
Mhm.
Why are you writing gracias? Why is that important? Why are you continuing to put that diversity and necessity out there?
I think it's just the voice of our company, and we're trying to kind of just push that out there to everyone that this is a half woman owned and Latino owned company, and our kids are mixed, and we have diversity within our company, and it's just trying to kind of like, that's what we're leading with, not only just the Spanish side of us, but just in the grace, in the gratefulness of it all, and putting that out there. So it's just kind of a little kind of thing to just kind of throw out there and give that kind of example of like, here's where we're coming from first.
I think also when there were so many initial conversations about creating more diversity in companies that didn't have it, one of the big questions that I would hear come up all the time is, where are the subtle ways that as a company you are telling people that they don't belong?
Ooh.
And it in the language that you use in a job description, in a post, how are you letting them know that they're not good enough, or they're not aligned with you enough, they're not similar to you enough to be there? And we spent a ton of time as we were building the company up, figuring out what was our voice. How did we find a voice too that was both of us, that wasn't to one or the other? And how did we make sure that in everything that we conveyed, we were approachable and we were welcoming people in? We weren't bragging. We weren't better than you. We wanted to make you feel like you wanted to come and hang out with us. And that goes down into the language of our job descriptions and the language of our posts, and saying something like, gracias, tell somebody you're okay over here.
Yeah. As an LA native, I saw that and I was like, that feels pretty LA.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. I have another follow-up question that is just as important, but what did success look like for you in the very beginning? And has it changed today?
Well, I think for me, growing up, it was always trying to have financial independence. Success to me meant I could pay for things for myself. I could take care of myself. I didn't need a husband to do it. I didn't need my family to help me. And as I've evolved in my career and my life and my mind, for me now, success is when I can find balance between work and home, and it doesn't feel like two different people. I can be the same person in both places, and I can have my kids come in and give me a hug or tell me a story or need my advice on something without keeping one eye on my computer and worried that someone needs an answer from me right away, and that if I don't answer it right away, it's a catastrophe. So when I can do that, when I can switch gears and put something down and give them my full attention, it's a wildly successful day.
For me, I think success is now is what you see within our company and what we're doing. We don't need to be 1,000 people or whatever huge. We're tiny, but we get to work with really amazing people. They're all literally our friends. So that's like a bonus because we get to make money, they get to make money. And like, we're not in this for like, this second or third home. I don't need a Ferrari or anything like that. It's just, we want to work with people that are going to give us their best work, and we're going to give them our best selves so that they have a good experience. Our clients are like on our side and want us to win. We want to win for them. Like, I think that's the best relationship you can have with a client. We have their back, they have ours. So yeah, whether we're tiny or huge, like, we're just successful because like we get to do this, which is a fun. I've found this like what is the word, revitalization in myself, in this industry, and in my career now, that where I can kind of give out work to people that I know are going to do a great job and aren't going to try and like kind of mail it in or anything like that. So that de-stresses me out, and they know that I'm not going to try and like take over whatever their design is or whatever. And so there's just like a nice synergy there when working with clients and, all of our friends that we brought in just to kind of work. And it's like a special thing. Like, it's really, it's a blessing to have been in this industry 20 years and been in the trenches with all these people that like, they just trust me and I trust them. And that's like the success to me. And also being in partnership with my wife, like I never would have thought that we would have done this. Like, you've asked, I would never even have thought of being in this industry like, 15, 20 years ago, because I was off being a knucklehead. So I just kind of consider myself very lucky to have had a lot of people behind me, whether, when I was a kid and just wanting to teach me, whether it's friends who wanted to help us when we got started. Like, it was just, and clients wanting to help us when we got, like, we've just been so blessed with so many great, amazing human beings that, want to support us. And that to me is the success in and of itself, is just having that.
It's our job to pay that forward.
Yeah.
Everybody that has given us a chance, it's given us an opportunity, that's supported us. Like, we need to put that back out into the world for all the other people coming up.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it, because you are paying it forward, but you're also culturing a new environment for everybody. And so I have a fun question for you, but like last serious-ish one. Any advice for our new students that are coming into this business, people that are just wanting to start their own companies, just all the freshies out there?
You want to go?
I think you need to just be open to learning.
Yes.
You're learning from
important.
You're learning from the people that aren't doing it the way you would do it, and you're learning it from the people that are doing it amazingly well. And you don't know everything when you come in, and recognize that and listen. Just do a lot of listening, and it will make a huge difference in your path, and you'll find more opportunities that way as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think, be curious, be willing to go all the way with it, and not, when you hit roadblocks and when you stumble, like, that's normal. That'll happen. Like, we're not doing everything perfectly. We've stumbled and hit roadblocks, even with one another, where we're like, I don't know if I see it that way, but you got to find a way to kind of figure those things out and get to the next, because you got to have a North Star too, to make sure that, like, at the end of the day, like, you're still following that North Star, because things will come up, so just and be hungry and be willing to, like, be ready to step up to the challenge as well, because it's not easy. There's a lot of things that you won't understand, but through repetition, through being curious about figuring out the problem, you will get there. And I think that's the one thing that stuck for me, is that, like, there's a lot of things that have come up that I'm like, I don't like, it's like when you talk to an insurance agent, from, your medical insurance agent, who's like telling you, like, oh, it's not this, and this, and this. And I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. It all makes sense, but I'm clueless right now.
Yeah.
And that's how it was, kind of learning the business side of this business and all these big words. And
it like, comes over time. You just got to organically let it.
Eventually, you'll get it. Like, I never would have thought, like, learning Photoshop is way harder than learning the business side of this stuff. Like, there's just so, like, a million ways to skin a cat in Photoshop. And it's just, But you eventually you just get it. It's repetition, it's reps, it's hours in. And if you have the drive and you're doing it for the right reasons,
Yeah.
that's
do it for the right reasons.
That's the biggest difference.
Yes, because a lot of people will think, well, I want to be a millionaire, I want to make as much money, but they may not understand that the more money you make, the more money you spend.
Yeah.
Like you're just constantly turning it out and reinvesting it back into everybody else because you want to continue to hire great talent, great people, and grow everything to where it needs to grow.
Yeah, and what they don't realize is that if you do it for the right reasons, the rest comes. All the other cool stuff that you see, it'll all come if your head's in the right place, if your heart's in the right place. You're not going to really have an issue with the other stuff. It'll come if you're doing it for the right reasons.
Everything's always changing. Mm-hmm. So if you're stuck on an idea of what you think something's supposed to be or what you thought it was going to be, you're only going to get frustrated and wear yourself down. But if you can approach everything in your world as, this is different than I thought it was going to be. Let's see where it goes. You can have a lot more peace with the in and out of every day. I've seen so many project managers even get frustrated over a project that gets much more unruly or much larger than they thought it was going to be in the beginning. And it's but that's what it always is. That's what life is, and the more you can just run with it and be unfazed, the more you're going to learn. And the better you're going to be able to handle the next thing. It's just one foot in front of the other every day. One best decision after the next best decision. You can only do what you know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And last fun question. Do you, Heather, have a hobby or guilty pleasure that someone would be shocked to find out about you?
I don't know, shocked, but I am a huge music documentary podcast person. That's where my head is all day long is doing all that. And my current meditation is landscaping. So whenever I start to get stressed out during the day, if it's not 100 degrees outside in the valley, I run outside and I start planting things, and it calms me down pretty quick. It gives me something else that I'm creating that has nothing to do with entertainment.
Nice. And you will.
Oh man. If I could probably play basketball every day, that would be awesome. Do it once a week. But I love basketball. I love watching basketball. Anyone who knows me knows I'm the hugest Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls fan. I like woodworking. I'm building an office on the side of my house for myself. So I'm doing that, and I like computers and technology, and I love taking things apart and putting them back together. Sometimes they don't work, but that's fine. It's just for the task of just pulling stuff apart and figuring them out. But that's kind of the stuff that I like doing, and I like going to the movies with my kids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we definitely have our little. We go to the movies. We get our ices. We get our candy.
Yeah. You got to make it an event. That's
always an event. Yeah, if we go there and we don't have any of these things, it's
a ritual. Never happened, and it didn't happen properly.
It's good.
It also reminds you of how inflation when we were kids.
Yes, I will admit that I've been sneaking candy into my purse, and my kids are mortified that I've got red vines in the bag. But hey, I'd say $50 on those red vines.
Yeah, you're a survivor. Well, that's it for me. Rico, did you have anything else?
I do have one question just in fun, before we wrap up, because I know we're at time. I love what you all are doing. It's so great, the environment you're creating. Where did the name come from? Hustle LA. So because it's almost anti, right? So
Well, right. So I noticed as we were trying to come up with a name that we kept using the word. We kept using the word when we described ourselves and how we found our way and people that we respect. And it just felt right. And then there are other companies called Hustle, so we had to add the LA to it. But simultaneously to that is when everybody started talking about hustle culture being a super negative. So we hemmed and hawed a little bit of like, oh no, what have we done? So when we launched and we continued to do this, we made an effort on our Instagram to have a steady stream of posts reframing the idea of hustle and introducing it more as the way we see it, as not giving up and having perseverance, not endurance, and just keeping your eye on what you want and not getting pushed down. So you'll see a lot of different posts where maybe we're sharing a quote from someone that we feel like what they're saying really demonstrates the mentality and the balance of what we feel like hustle means. And so usually the caption on that will be, that's hustle. And so we're trying to show in everything we put out there that there's a different way to see it. It doesn't have to be viewed as this negative grind.
Yeah. And then everyone has it. Everyone has it in them. This is why you're here. This is why, Leonard, you're here. Like your whole life, you've had hustle in you to get to where you are, and that's a good thing. Like it's what's shaped us, is that drive, that motivation, that hustle. Yeah. And that's kind of when we were talking about it, I was like, that makes sense. Like we shouldn't be afraid of it. And again, like there goes that fear thing. Like we feared it, let's do it, and see how it turns out. And it's actually like, it's so funny because, when we're in meetings with clients and stuff and like the word will come up and they're like, haha, like, they're just like,
we got a lot of things for the hustle. And so
know?
We're like, we didn't realize we would keep ourselves so top of mind, but that's great.
So it's just
it's great. I love the like reframing and almost like rebranding of what hustle means. So love that. Love it.
Yeah. Well, it takes chutzpah to be creative. And thank you for sharing your story with us, Heather and Wil Lemus. I don't know if I said it wrong the first time, but I'm saying it right this time. That's for sure.
You are.
Yeah, Lemus. Seriously, thank you guys. I'm in the same boat. Have my own creative agency. When I see you guys out there hustling, it really gives me a lot of encouragement because that we're up like 12 o'clock p.m. is just or a.m. is just a suggestion. Like we're going right through the hours. And I know you guys are putting in the necessary time frame, but you're finding the structure that you need in your life. And so it pushes me out of this rectangle as much as I try to. But I'm just really proud of you guys and to, grow and see you guys grow as well. And I can't wait to see you on every Clio stage, every award stage, just out there inspiring and keeping that hustle alive. So thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. It's been fun talking to you.
Really, really appreciate you guys having us. And it's nice to meet you guys, on a different level as well, and I know, Leonard, we've had talks before and stuff like that, but these conversations are the things that get us like further in, get more layers in, and we get to know each other even more. So which is what we love to do, is just kind of meeting new people and having these kinds of conversations is awesome. So
and hopefully we'll make other people talk about the same things.
Yeah.
Right. I was going to say, if we really want to change things, we have to be okay having these conversations and have them as often and in public as possible. So thank you all for sharing.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks. Well, that's it for Creative Chutzpah. We'll see you next time. And thank you, Hustle LA, Heather and Wil, for joining us today. And thank you, Rico, for joining us and hosting as well. All right. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. If you're ready to make huge, lasting change in your life, then what are you waiting for? What will your life look like if you took action today? What would it look like if you didn't? If you're serious and you're ready, book your free strategy session today and let's make your future a reality.